Tony, welcome to the I Dare You podcast. Really great having you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Darren. I'm so excited to jump in. And man, I love what you're doing and appreciate your platform and the idea of daring someone to get outside of their own comfort zone. Try to live my life there every day.
Well, fantastic. I would say so. I mean, you heard a little of my introduction of you, and usually when I'm talking to a guest, I think, okay, what do they do? How do you describe what do you do, sir? That's impressive.
So it's interesting that you say that because I feel like from my vantage points, I do the same thing in every area of life, which is I do my very best to transform leaders to find peace and freedom. And that's ultimately the work that I love to do. The work that I feel like God's called me to do is that idea about, man, I hate seeing incredible leaders, type A people, the people who are like my kind of people. And I hate to see them wrestling with the weight of life and not having the hope, love, joy, peace that I think is right on the other side of just a couple of intentional decisions. And so that's really what I do. I help people find peace.
It's good. And by the way, that's one of the things that was on your website, is if you didn't know, but for everyone listening, you write, helping faith-driven executives and entrepreneurs seal their identity in Christ so that they can release control and embrace peace. I have read a lot of mission statements before, if you call it that, but that is so powerful. How did you arrive at that, sir?
Well, it's interesting, right? I think a lot of what leaders forget to do is to create a scorecard on what success looks like. And so one of the things that I try to do in my own life, and one of the things I try to do in the lives of the people that I'm coaching, is I try to create a scorecard that shows the end result of what they're trying to do. So I have my core 4 values, which are faithful, grateful, generous, and movement.
Nice.
And so underneath each one of those values are activities that I can actually measure. So for example, under faithfulness, I want to pray with my wife every night. I want to be active in a church community, and I want to make sure I go to the gym 5 days a week. I want to move my body 5 days a week for at least 30 minutes. I like to close my rings on my Apple Watch. That's faithfulness, right? Grateful. I call my parents once a week. I make sure that I always thank people via text or in person for various opportunities that are given. I always want to have a heart of gratitude. And then under generous, I tithe my time and my treasure. So I always want to have at least 2 coaching clients that I'm coaching for free. And then movement. I want to do something in my life that I've never done before. And I want to do that every year, so that every year I'm following Jesus, and every year that I'm following my calling, I look different at the end of the year than I did at the beginning. So when I put all those things together, that's kind of how I came to that idea about, like, the best work that I can do is going to help people, release control and embrace peace, because it's there. It's there if you want it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I love the specificity of it, but also it's very empowering. You have a brand new book, was just out, September 23rd. Congratulations.
Yeah, Tuesday as we record this. We're recording on a Friday. It released on Tuesday. It was big. It was release week, so I'm really tired of seeing my face on the internet.
The name of the book is Wisdom in the Wound. You write about how we are all leaders. You don't necessarily have to be the king or the queen of something in order to lead others. We're all leaders, whether you are leaders of your home or your family or you're at work. I mean, that's a strong theme as well for you, isn't it?
It is. One of the definitions of leadership that I get from my lead pastor. I write about it in the book. My lead pastor's name is Dave Holmes. And Dave says leadership is all about your ability to influence. And so if you live in the world today, whether you have 1 follower or 100,000, or you've just got your family, you have the ability to influence. And the ability to influence is the ability to lead. And we're called to steward that.
Yeah, by the way, I want to thank you for your service. I was reading in your bio that you served in Iraqi freedom.
I did. Yeah, I was a reservist who was deployed from 2004 to 2005, and I got to serve at the APOD, the Aerial Port of Debarkation Embarkation in Kuwait, as a chaplain's assistant. So we got to do ministry all over Kuwait and southern Iraq, and we traveled so much. It was an incredible honor, and some of my closest friends I met on that year-long deployment. I also got to be deployed stateside from 2007 to 2008, helping soldiers come back from deployment with marriage retreats. And prior to all of that, I spent 6 months in Germany helping families while their unit was in Kosovo, actually. So I was in Germany while the unit was there is in Kosovo, and we got to do some work with families there. So the Army, I'm so thankful for it because it's just created so many opportunities for me to see the world and learn.
Well, you've helped a lot of people. It's a fantastic book. What really put me back when I was reading it was you mentioned that we all have wounds. I find myself mentally kind of pushing back on that,
Sure.
but we all have wounds, really.
Well, so what's interesting is that I've had the opportunity to speak to hundreds of people in dozens of rooms. And one of the things that I'm always curious about is if everyone is in agreement that the world is broken. And so far the answer has been yes. Here's the thing, if the world is a broken place, how do we begin to put handles on what that actually means? And so what I kind of assert in the book is that the brokenness of the world played out is this idea that all of us has a broken lens at which we see the world, what some psychologists might call little t trauma. And that little t trauma is not malice and intent. It's not no one did it to us, but somewhere along the way, our interpretation of life, and it usually happens between the ages of 4 and 12, begins to become like a contact lens in which we see the world. That's where brokenness plays out. Now, the other side to that is that's also indicative of our gifting because our body wants to respond to that. So on the other side of your wound is almost always your greatest gift.
So that's one thing that took me again just a moment to accept is that it's that wound is the source of God's greatest gift. Why would that be part of God's plan? What do you think?
So let me kind of nuance the language just a little bit. Let me say it like this. I would say it's part of God's redemptive plan to take what is broken in the world and redeem it for his good. Now, if you're coming through a Christian paradigm, we would say like it's 2 Corinthians 5:16-21, this ministry of reconciliation, that someday there would be a new heaven and a new earth and that all things would be new. And so, but yet on this earth right now, the world is still broken. So it's a here and now brokenness and a not yet made new. You are, in fact, a new creation in Christ. That's a gift and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And also those wounds exist inside of you. So what happens is that through the brokenness of the world, we get to see the glory of God's redemption in all of us. And so one of the things that I've just found to be true is I haven't met somebody yet who's not wounded. And that wounding comes out. And because of our human nature, because of God's redemption, our greatest gift is on the other side of it. So I would say our gifting is in spite of our wounding, not because of our wounding.
That's a really good point. At work this week, Tony, I've been dealing with 360-degree feedback. Have you ever gone through that in corporate America or in your world?
Absolutely, 100%. One of the exercises that I tell people to do in the book all the time is to ask the question, which sounds like what you're wrestling with. What's it like to be on the other side of me? That 360-degree feedback is real.
And so all week long, I've been talking to people in my organization that have gone through 360 feedback, and they are getting feedback from others that they've never heard before. So many feelings that go into this process. And I also have received the same feedback, Tony. And so I've been really wrestling with the feedback I'm getting and trying to understand, okay, what do I do with that? I have strong emotional feelings. Maybe it's just that person, or who said that, or in the spirit of the wound. What do you hear me saying, and what am I wrestling with?
One of the tools that I introduce in the book is this idea of the emotional intensity scale. And so if you think about your emotions on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being you're barely alive, and 10 being, I've got so many feelings, right?
Yeah.
Anytime that you're a 6 or above, it's always more about you than it is the other person.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Help.
And so here's why this matters in what you're talking about. If someone gives you a piece of feedback that causes you to have an emotional intensity spike at a 6 or above, it's more about you than it is about them. They've bumped up against something, right? So let me give you an example. You and I were talking before we hit record. I've got 2 boys that play football. They're both linebackers. Mm-hmm. If one of them gets a pick six and takes it to the house, and I go full blown Midwestern dad and I start chest bumping people and I'm hollering and I'm screaming, right? I've clearly spiked emotionally above a six. Is it really about him or is it really about me?
Oh, that's
And what I
good.
would suggest is that it's about me, right? In that
Yeah.
moment, I feel extra special or extra seen, right? And so the key is when we have these kind of feedback loop moments, these moments that cause us to kind of rile up emotionally, we have to calm down. We have to feel our feelings. And essentially, what we really need to do, Darren, is we need to put ourselves in timeout.
Tell me more. Tell me more about that. I've never done that, but I think I might benefit from that. What do you mean?
Well, so here's the thing, right? Feelings exist only to be decision points, not decision makers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So feelings are meant to come along with us for the ride, but they're not meant to drive the car. And a lot of times we have emotional reactions because we're having this intense emotional feeling. Well, the wisest leaders in the world, the leaders that we all want to follow, they don't have emotional reactions. They have intentional responses. The only thing to do is to put yourself in timeout so that the feeling can calm down enough so you can parse out what's real here and what's not, right? Oftentimes we want to respond to the critic and not the coach. And so if you're a value driven leader, if you're the kind of leader that wants to live a faithful, grateful, generous movement kind of life, or whatever your core four values are, if you let something come out of your mouth that is an emotional reaction, that's probably not going to be in alignment with your values.
True.
And so the only thing to do is to slow down.
Yes. I think that's really, really wise. You know, when I reviewed some of my feedback, some I agreed with, and others the defenses went up and the insecurities came up, and bumping
Mm-hmm.
against the wound for sure. Using using your language, I so badly wanted to send an email. I so badly did, and I did not. I did not. What I did was I let it sit for a good 72 hours and thought through. You know, in this feedback, there's maybe a grain of truth in it, and it
That's
probably
right.
is. And sure enough, I saw it. I wasn't nearly as intentional as what you just described. It helped me reframe it in so many ways. And so I like that. I like the discussion about the intentional response. We can do that in so many areas of our life. This is just a rage culture we're in right now. You don't need to always listen to your feelings every single day.
You're spot on. And here's the thing. I want you to experience your feelings, but I just don't want them to have the keys to the car of your life.
Oh,
One of the things that I kind of believe is that the wisest leaders in the world, they don't have an absence of wounding. Everyone's wounded. If we're all willing to admit that, then grace becomes a lot easier, right? So the wisest and the leaders in the world, they don't have an absence of wounding, but rather they have an intimacy with it. And that intimacy, what it does is it gives me permission that if you bump up against my wound, I don't have to have an emotional reaction because of it. Instead, I can pause, I can reflect, I can listen, and I can say, what's the best decision I need to make here?
it's good. So that is what you just described right there. That's a practical step we can all take to be more intentional in our responses. And that's what I'm taking from this, Tony. Any other tips or hacks that we can use in order to start today and be more intentional with those responses? I think you're onto something. I know you are.
I would say this, Darren. I would say like one of the things that we can do is begin to pull the string of that feeling. And what I mean by that is the feedback that you received this week in your 360. Ask yourself the question when you had such an adverse feeling reaction to it. Ask yourself the question, when is the first time in my life I felt that way before?
Mm,
All right. And chase it all the way back. So that way you can begin to look at patterns.
that's
Most of those
uncomfortable, Tony.
wounds, yeah, absolutely it is. It is uncomfortable. But here's the thing. What we're looking for in life is not normal. Peace is not normal for most people. And so if you want an abnormal result, you have to be willing to do abnormal practices. Most people don't want to sit with their feelings, and I get that. But what I'll tell you is that if it could heal some of the broken relationships, if it could give you wisdom about how you operate, let me give you an example from my own life. I desperately struggle when I don't feel like I'm seen or valued, right? I'm a middle child. And so my parents had unplanned twins when I was 4. At
Mm-hmm.
4 years old, my parents' life drastically changed. My brother and sister were brought into the world. They're incredible humans. I absolutely love them. But in that moment, the message I received is, Tony, you aren't that important anymore. Now, my parents didn't do that to me on purpose. They love me. They're great parents. But that's the message that I gathered on my own accord. That's the brokenness of the world. And then what would happen is I would begin to put myself in positions where people are forced to see me, AKA a microphone, a pulpit, writing. Like,
Interesting.
I've kind of designed this entire life around wanting to be seen. Right. And now that doesn't make me an egomaniac. What that does make me is it makes me someone who's just aware that I have a desire to be seen. And that's okay. So if somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, I still don't believe that you're a man of integrity. I don't believe you made the right decision. Da, 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 da. What happens is I know they're going to bump up against my wound. And now I can kind of laugh at it because I'm so familiar with the edges of my wound. When somebody infringes on my grass, so to speak, I'm more like, whoa, that's that. I know exactly where that's from. That's not you. That's 4-year-old Tony. And so now 45-year-old Tony can actually walk alongside 4-year-old Tony and say, you're okay, dude. We got this. We have much better skills now than we did then. And we're okay, right? And now the work that I do, my unique gifting in the world, the thing that I do really well is I have a unique ability to see people. Why? Because I didn't feel seen. And so my greatest gift is right on the other side of that wound. And that's true for most people.
And that goes full circle. We talk about in the wound, the very place God grows your greatest gift. And I'm quoting that. The very place God grows your greatest gift. Now I'm seeing it. I appreciate that example very, very much. I see it. We talked earlier about everyone is a leader at some level, family or in business, in life. How would this book help a leader lead better, have more influence?
Self-awareness is what makes us wise. And so if we want to be the wisest leader in the room, the best thing you can do is become a master of self so that you don't pop off at the mouth, that you don't emotionally react, if you don't send out a tweet that could get you fired, right? So because at the end of the day, this one of my core beliefs is that nobody ever wakes up and says, oh, you know what? Today's the day that I want to ruin my company or ruin my marriage or alienate my kids or divorce my wife, right? What ends up happening is we make choices that aren't in alignment with what God's called us to do, with our values. And we begin to let those emotional reactions dictate our life. And so the next thing you know, we've got things happening like, it just doesn't feel good. Well, that's all. Yeah. Nothing feels good in the moment that's worth it, right? Yeah. I work out every morning. It doesn't feel good while I'm in it, but I never regret a workout when it's over. You know, I saw that. I think you were in Jackson, Wyoming, not too long ago, earlier this year. Yeah, climbing to the top of a mountain, right? It doesn't feel good when you can't breathe, but the view's amazing from the top.
It was so worth it, Tony. It was so worth it.
So worth it, right? And that's the thing. If you're a leader and you've got people, then those people are all broken. And your ability to recognize your own brokenness will give you the gift of recognizing their brokenness. And what that does is it gives everyone permission to have a little grace. And grace played out is just empathy plus curiosity. And what a gift that is. Empathy plus curiosity. Imagine a workplace where we are empathetic and curious about one another. Imagine a marriage or a family unit where we're empathetic and curious about one another. Those are places that people want to be, not places people run from.
Love that perspective. You know, I was going to ask you about grace. How do I define that? It's funny. Now you gave me the formula, empathy plus curiosity. I've never thought of it that way. The role of grace in leadership. I can think of my own leadership journey. I believe that leadership is a responsibility. If we've all seen it, leaders influence lives for better or for worse. And so I do think if you have that heart for mission or that heart for others, you have a responsibility to get in the fight and to use your talents and to influence lives for good. What do you think on that? Pick up on that.
I think there's leadership, again, the ability to influence, so that we all have the ability to influence. And there are plenty of people who are leading movements that I wouldn't want to be a part of. And so I would say leadership is a privilege. And that privilege, however you lead them, is a reflection of your values. So if you choose to lead for the bottom line, you can absolutely do that. It's completely within your right. I love being a capitalist, right? Go get it.
Yeah.
But it's a really lonely world. When you lead like that, it's a really lonely world. Now, one of the things that I believe, and I'm going to guess you do as well, is abundance mindset is that when you win as a human, all humans win.
Amen.
And so I want to be abundant mindset. I want to have that ability to say, raising water raises all boats. I want to create a place where people, we don't just hire people in, but we launch people out, right? I want to be a steward of moments of people's lives, of seasons. Leadership is the ability to influence. And I think once you get really clear about what you're influencing them for, life gets a lot easier.
Yeah, sure does. Sure does. A lot of people are listening to this and saying,
Yeah.
okay, Darren, Tony, sounds great. You don't know my life. I am busy. I'm stressed. You don't know what I'm dealing with right now. What are some of the things that we all could do in order to get us in a position where we could practice better disciplines or to have more intentional responses? What are some things we could do to set us up for success?
So one of my core beliefs is that if you aren't dedicated to your disciplines, you'll be destroyed by your distractions.
Oh,
So let me say that again. If you aren't dedicated to your disciplines, you'll be destroyed by your distractions. So the disciplines, you already have disciplines in your life. If you can begin to accept that, that's the first step. Hey, your life is an acceptance of a lot of things that you're like. What you're doing now is a product of your disciplines. So some people would call those process goals. So process goals versus outcome goals. Your daily disciplines are the process goals that get you to your outcome goals. So if one of my outcome goals for the year is to be faithful, then the way I measure that is through the process goal of praying with my wife every night. That's just an example. You have disciplines already in your life. The question is are they producing the results that you want? And if the answer is no, just change them, right? And this is where we tend to overcomplicate things, especially leaders. We think there's a right and a wrong. And what I really believe is there's less right and wrong. There's more, is it working or not working? And so like one of my examples, I am struggling all the time with physical fitness. And so I'm always changing up my physical fitness routine because I'm trying to see what's the best result. Now, right now I got a workout buddy. It's great. I feel stronger than ever, but I still eat like a garbage can, right? Like, like I just love to eat out. I love to, I got a sugar tooth. Like those are all realities for me.
Yeah.
And so is that producing the life that I want? Maybe. Now I'm not always happy with it, but I'm not willing to change the discipline that causes it. Right. And so we all have these disciplines. One of the things that most of us don't do a great job of is we don't do a great job of setting a date to evaluate. So I tell my clients this all the time. I tell people in my life all the time, set a date to evaluate. Take 30, 60 days, try a practice out. Maybe it's, 30 minutes in the morning of silence, practice of solitude. Maybe it's reading something in the morning. Maybe it's prayer. Maybe it's going to church. Try it for 60 days and then evaluate the results. Hey, did I feel better when I do these things? Yes. Keep doing it. Right? Is this producing actual change? Yes. Keep doing it. No. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What do I need to shift? Right? And seasons will cause those things to shift too. I've got 3 kids. My youngest is 13. My oldest is 19. I'm basically not really responsible for them during the day.
Sure.
They start their day off early and then they go to practice and they're all athletes. And so, we're in a season now where my wife and I take a lot of walks. Praise God. We couldn't do that when they were 3 though. So, that's the difference. We're in our disciplines have changed because our goals have changed, because our seasons have changed.
Good. Everyone, I think Tony's dropped a real truth bomb there in the area of setting that date. You know, Tony, I was coaching with an employee, and she was wanting to make a change in her life, and I could just tell every fiber in her being didn't want to make the change. She knows she needs to, but she said, I just, she was struggling. I said, look, do this. Try it for 30 days. That's all. Tell your brain
Yeah.
you're practicing this. You're just going to try it. It's a trial. And then after 30 days, then see if it works. And if it does, keep going. If not, you don't need to do it. And immediately you can almost see her whole posture just changed. She breathed out and it just felt so much better. We're in a constant battle with our mind here, but I think that 30 or 60 or 90 day, just try it. And if it's working, wonderful. It doesn't have to be these massive pivots. It could be these small shifts that can make all the difference. Yes?
100%. 1 degree shift. That's what I think about it all the time. You don't have to change everything. It doesn't, oftentimes the everything change is too overwhelming.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
I love the idea of just living one day at a time. Hey, I'm just going to try it today. I'm going to add an extra walk in today. I'm going to add in green, food on my plate today, right? I'm just going to try it one day at a time. And if it works, I'll do it another day,
Yeah.
like one day at a time, 1 degree shift over a long period of time, what produces transformational results.
It's great. Tony, I eat like a garbage truck as well. So I'm going to send you a few recipes that are really decadent.
I love it.
Okay. So they're coming your way. Tony, what is it that you would hope the reader would think or do differently as a result of reading Wisdom in the Wound?
My hope and prayer for every person that picks up the book is that they begin to become acutely aware of their own brokenness and give themselves grace in that and begin to see the brokenness of others. And along the way, maybe we could just live a less emotionally reactive world and a more intentionally responsive world.
It's great. Very clear. Hey, it reminded me, I forgot to mention this, but I do my best to be intentional in my responses, but I'm human. So here's what I did. I was doom scrolling the other night, and I
Yeah.
shouldn't have been. And sure enough, I saw a post. It was on TikTok, and it triggered me. And for the first time in a long, I mean, I don't ever respond. But it was late at night, and I just let the emotions get. So I responded. I don't need to respond to everything. I don't need to
Nope.
engage with everything I disagree with. I don't need to, Tony. Do I? I don't need to.
Absolutely not. And here's the thing. Social media is designed for emotional reaction because it's the emotional reaction that keeps you on the platform.
Yes,
They're playing
it
on the
did.
dopamine hits, right? You're better off if you're having an emotional reaction, you're better off to just go to your front porch and yell whatever you want to say from your front porch as loud as you can,
Oh, I
right?
like that.
Right, just because that's essentially what you're doing on social media, right? Just go to your
Yeah.
front porch and just yell into your neighborhood, whatever you were going to yell, right? Which, for example, for me, I tend to have emotional reactions to the Cincinnati Bengals, right?
Yes.
And so on the day that Joe Burrow went down, I should have gone on my front porch and yelled, "Why don't we have an offensive line?" Right? Instead of posting something like the Brown
Right.
family who owns the Bengals, they're not going to listen to what I have to say. They don't care. Like
They don't care,
I might
Tony.
as well
They don't
just
care.
spit in the wind, right? Like I'm still watching the games. I'm still buying the tickets.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just doesn't matter as much as we think it does. Just post pictures of your kids. And,
Yes.
I love your Instagram. You got climbing mountains, horses, love wins. Like there's nothing bad here.
No, thank you. I make a point of it to avoid all the stuff. In fact, yeah, I mean, when I go on social media, I want here's what I want. I want puppies, I want recipes, and yeah, I want pictures of kids or kids who have 11 tackles in their football game. That's what I want to
That's
see.
right. Just
Yeah,
bragging about my son on my Instagram. Yesterday was
that's right.
National Daughter Day. Well, turns out I'm my daughter's favorite paparazzi. So I got all the pictures, right? Like it's,
Oh, you know all
she's
the angles.
amazing, right?
Yeah,
She's
you
my
know all the angles to
princess.
take. I like it. All right, Tony, it's time. You may not know this, but at the end of every episode, I ask my guests, what is your I dare you challenge for all of us? So here it is. What would you challenge us to do or try to live a better life? Tony, what do you got for us?
I dare you to feel your feelings with intentionality and space, to set out time in your very busy calendar and say, I'm going to have space for all of the emotions that are happening inside of me. And then I double dog dare you not to judge them, just to feel them and accept them, and ask yourself the question, when's the first time I felt this in my life?
It's a really good idea challenge, something we can all do. And I will triple dog dare you. Make sure you do that, everybody. I think that's really, really clear. Everyone, the name of the book is Wisdom in the Wound, How God Uses Your Past to Shape Who You Are Becoming. Fantastic book. And Tony, congratulations. I know it's going to be a huge success. And I want to thank you for being here on the podcast. Really an honor to meet you. And open invite. Let's get together in Jackson. Let's go climb a mountain together. And really great having you here.
I can't wait. Hey, you know what? Actually, I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in 2027.
No, you're not.
I am, with a ministry group. That's the thing that I'm going to do in 27 that's a little different. And so next summer, I need to get in a 14K out west somewhere. So let's hook up.
Jackson, Wyoming. We'll make it happen. Thanks for being here, Tony.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate it.